Thanks for tuning in to Quill Billy Garage. We are continuing to work on this 1934 Ford sedan, getting it up and running and back on the road. And today we're going to take a look at the shocks, one in particular. So these early Fords had what's called a lever shock. I have it disconnected at the moment. So this is the shock, and it connects to the axle with this, it's called a dog bone. And the reason I have it undone is this shock is seized up, and so it was holding the axle up. So I'm gonna try a few things. I already tried putting a cheater bar on it and give me some leverage to see if I could unstick it, and I had no luck. And I figure at this point I probably got nothing to lose, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull the fill plug there. These shocks take oil, but I'm gonna pull that plug and squirt in some kind of penetrating oil and let it soak and see if I can stick a cheater bar back on the lever and see if I can get it to budge. Got the plug out with no problem. It takes a 7/16 square drive. And to give you an idea what I tried beforehand is I've got this long pipe that I used as a cheater to try and break it loose gently-ish. Now I'm going to spray some lubricant in the body of the shock and let it soak. Fast forward 3 days, we've let this lever shock soak with penetrating oil in it, and here in a minute we're going to put a pipe over that lever and see if we can get it to budge. Also want to take a moment to talk about the difference between 1933 and 1934 Ford shocks. 33 and 34 Fords have a lot of similarities, but there are a lot of little details that aren't the same. The front shocks in particular on a 34, as you see here, are mounted to the outside of the frame. On a 33, they're mounted in the same place, but it's a different shock. It's mounted to the inside of the frame with a shaft sticking through a hole in the side of the frame, and the lever's then attached to that. You can use 34 shocks on a 33, and I think it works the same way you could use 33 shocks on a 34, but they are different. The front shocks are different. When you go to the back of the car, I believe 33s and 4s are the same. The rear shocks on both years mount behind the frame rail with the shaft sticking through and the lever attached to that. And we've got the cheater pipe in place, and we're going to see if we can get this shock to budge. It's moving a little bit, it feels like. Well, I gotta say, I was skeptical. I didn't think we'd get this shock to move, but we did. So off camera, I will work at it a little more and see if we can get it to move more freely. Well, it's still quite resistant to any kind of movement, but as you can see, I did get it down pretty close to where I could hook the dog bone back up without moving the axle too much, but I'm not gonna do that, just showing you how far we've come. See if I can get a little more movement out of it. Now here's a setup that's effective but kind of dangerous. I've got an adjustable wrench grabbing on the end of the shock lever, and then a pipe on the end of that. I was able to get the shock to move down a little farther, but with the fender and bumper in the way, it's hard to get on there with something long enough to move it back to the up position, but we will keep working at it. So I've got it down even farther. far enough that I can go ahead and hook up this dog bone connector, and I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. I don't have a way to get leverage on this to work it up and then back and forth. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and connect up the dog bone connector, and hopefully when the car gets set back down, maybe the weight of the car and moving it around once we get it fired up and driving it around, maybe that will loosen it up a bit. Ultimately, I need to get the shocks rebuilt. That's not a, you can have that done, but it's not a cheap endeavor. So no need to do that expense now. As I've said before, I'm trying not to get hung up on too many roadblocks, getting this car back to where I can start it up, move it around, and drive it. So anyway, in the meantime, I'll keep an eye open for a good set of shocks. If not, eventually I will probably end up getting these rebuilt. I've got it all back together. Dog bone connector is connecting the shock arm to the axle, and I've got the plug back in the shock body. I'm sure we will revisit this again sometime, but at least for now it's back together, and I can move on to other aspects of this project. Thanks again for watching my channel and following along on my projects here. I hope that you will hit that like button if you like the video, and if you like what you're seeing here altogether, I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe to my channel. Thanks again. Till next time.